I've looked at some of the TikTok's usage by MPs, and sometimes it is a bit like watching your dad dancing at a disco.
Hey, it's me Anousha from Youth's Choice, and today I'm very excited to be joined by John McDonnell, Labour MP for Hayes and Harlington. John, thank you so much for being here.
Good to be here.
I'm assuming your commute wasn't too long since you are local.
About 500 yards.
Oh, okay. That's what I thought you were going to say, 500 miles. I have to ask, of course, you've had a long and successful career being an MP, but has it always been your dream job?
No. I became an MP by accident. I worked on the shop floor when I left school, and then did my A-levels at FE College and Night School. Then went to local university at Brunel because it was a sandwich course. You could work and study. And I wanted to be a manager in industry. I wanted to be a manager of the co-op. I wanted to transform the co-op.
We've got one next to I always go to it at lunch.
My big ambition is to change it into one of the most successful companies ever. And I couldn't get a job at the co-op. Everyone in my year at university wanted to be a politician or a trade union organiser. I couldn't get a job in the co-op. And then a job came up in a trade union, National Union of Mine Workers. I became a trade union official. One of my friends wanted to run for the Greater London Council then, and then Parliament, and backed out at the last minute. I was his organiser to get him elected. He backed out at the last minute, and then so everyone said, well, you're going to have to run. So I accidentally became a politician. Wow. It wasn't by planning.
And here you are at the Global Academy. I also have to ask, what do you think of the Global Academy?
Terrific.
Yeah.
Terrific. Absolutely terrific. I went to the award ceremony at the ICA and on the South Bank, and I watched all the different performances by the different colleges, including Global here. And it was just so impressive and exciting as well. Touring around today and meeting the students has been really interesting. So for me, for my local area, it's a real asset. There's no doubt about it. It's giving young people a real opportunity in life. A really good educational foundation for future careers. So locally, it's fantastic, but it's made its mark nationally as well, which is great.
And of course, you mentioned the students here, people my age, and whether people like it or not, we are the future of politics in all industries. So what advice would you give to someone of my age group that wants to get into politics and have a career like yourself?
Don't look on it as a career. It's not a career, because there's 650 MPs in Parliament. Some of them, the ones that go into it as a career, I think actually have mistaken what it's all about. It's more of a vocation. You go into politics because you want to change the world, you want to change something, you want to do good. Most MPs want to do good, but sometimes their career ambitions overcomes that principal desire to do good, and they put their career before principle. My view is it's not a career, it's a vocation. Go there because you want to, and get involved because you want to change things. Most important advice I give to people is get involved. If you think there's something wrong, or there's something you want to change, or something you want to improve, get involved, and get involved in an individual campaign or work through a trade union or a political party. Just get involved. If you don't get involved, you can't really criticise, can you?
Yeah. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. That's what I always
say.
Exactly. So what would you change about the current political climate if you were made PM today?
Okay. I think we need electoral reform. I think we need a fair electoral system. So I'm now a strong supporter of the last 10 years or so for proportional representation. That will make sure that the government that we get is more representative of the people themselves. That's the first thing. So electoral change. Secondly, I actually do think then we need a government that looks at how we can create a fairer society. And that does mean redistribution of wealth and power within our society at the moment. And I think if we did have a PR system, we're more likely to get a government of that sort that's more representative of the people overall. At the moment, I've just come from home. Hayes, my constituency now, there's grotesque levels of inequality. People are really suffering, and we've got real problems on housing. We've got people in the country overall as well, who are really struggling with the cost of living crisis. So we need a government that is really on their side. So radical change is what we need.
Absolutely. And I'm sure these are kind of the things that you voice when you're in Parliament. So I wanted to ask, what is the atmosphere like? Because I'm sure it gets quite passionate. People want to give their opinion. How do you kind of keep your wits about you and don't get too upset, really?
Key thing for me is how do you go about changing things? One, the electoral system, so you get elected into Parliament so you can represent your local community and you can put ideas forward. And you have to do that with, I think, a a thorough analysis and understanding of the change that's needed so you can convince people of the argument that you've got. But you will meet resistance, and that can result in quite heated debate. I don't mind that as long as people are honestly expressing their views. That's the first thing. So Parliament gives you an electoral platform, if you like, to voice those ideas and try and get into government to implement. That's the first thing. The second thing, though, if you look at our country, change hasn't always come through Parliament. It's come through people mobilising through, well, at work, through their trade unions. Secondly, in terms of resistance movements, women would not have the vote if it was left to Parliament. They got the vote through the suffragette and suffragist movement, mobilising, campaigning. It's the same on every other issue. Black Lives Matter. We wouldn't have equalities legislation at the moment if it wasn't mobilisation across our community for those people who felt they weren't getting a fair deal in society. So my view is electoral politics is one part of it, so I'm part of that process, being an MP, using Parliament as a platform to voice the need for change and how we can change society. But just as importantly, outside of Parliament, it's important that people get involved. So I advise young people as well, if there's an issue out there that you agree with someone who's campaigning on it, join the campaign, whether it's Extinction Rebellion on the environment, or whether it's people who are campaigning against racism and inequality, Black Lives Matter, get involved. Don't stand on the sides anymore.
You speak about mobilisation in different platforms, and that's quite interesting. Of course, we are a media school and social media is a big part of what we do. So how has the rise of social media impacted you and your career, and what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm of that generation who the only way we could get information out was either through the mainstream media or through what we did on the streets in terms of leafleting, street stores, that sort of thing. It's a very traditional thing. Along comes social media, then all of a sudden you've got the opportunity of getting a message out there, getting debates going on through a form of media that isn't controlled by the mainstream media. Remember, the mainstream media is largely owned by a small number of oligarchs, and they're not necessarily interested in change. They want to preserve their power and their wealth.
Yeah.
So therefore what social media opened up is the opportunity of having an independent form of getting a message out there and encouraging debate. Going along with it was important. I think using all forms of social media has been absolutely critical for me to get the encouragement of a debate that then can enable people to think again about the sort of society that we want. Of course, there's all the elements of trolling and all that sort of thing, but you take that on the chin, don't you? You just accept that's part of it. You ignore that and you just make sure that you're trying to communicate as effectively as possible using every mechanism. And what I keep saying to people is, remember that we live in such a fast-changing world. You have to ensure you're ahead of the game all the time. So when a new media form comes, make sure you're participating in that. And in that way, we can win the battle of ideas.
Absolutely. And speaking of new kind of social media platforms, I have to ask, do you have a TikTok?
I don't participate in TikTok at the moment. I watch it. I'm on TikTok, I watch it and all the rest of it. It's interesting. I got some of my team together yesterday and we were reviewing our social media presence.
Yeah.
And some people are really good on TikTok. They can really sharp get their message across, etc. It can be quite effective. I don't want to venture into TikTok if it's just going to be basically just a way in which advertising the name, the face or whatever like that. What we were discussing yesterday is how do we use all these different platforms to get across some key ideas in a way that opens the door to people that can then engage in much greater and more stimulating debate. So yeah, we'll most probably use TikTok it'll be largely, I think, about advertising events that are going to be taking place that will then enable people to get much more involved. But I've looked at some of the TikTok's usage by MPs, and sometimes it is a bit like watching your dad dancing at a disco. It's a bit embarrassing.
Nigel Farage, I have seen that, yeah.
So I don't want to get involved in
Absolutely.
that. But it could be a useful tool, definitely.
Yeah, I think the idea of events and stuff, I know if I saw something like that on TikTok, I think, oh yeah, I'll go, and I can just send it to my friend. And I think actually with the rise of social media, it's great that, of course, there are downsides. And in our interview with Kevin Brennan, which we were discussing earlier, he did say about the trolling and how, in a way, you're also much more accessible now in a way that you weren't so much before. Less so people coming up to you in the streets, but maybe targeting you on social media. So there's definitely two sides to it, but I think it can be a really powerful tool. And of course, we're equipped with all these skills here at the Global Academy, so it's amazing to be able to do this and to be able to chat with you. So thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.